This was the first track that I wrote for the album. It's called The Boy Awakens. And it was when I was experimenting with some textures, and it's a really, really simple piece. So pretty much everything in this piece became the textures that were inside of the album as a whole. So we had like this kind of dark, weird Celeste. Celeste is like used in the Nutcracker Suite. It's a very like Harry Potter magical kind of instrument, but I messed it up. So you can hear there's like the tonality of it is like weird. And for me, that was super, super evocative. That was like one of the first instruments that kind of inspired a lot of stuff. The second thing was this kind of little echoey thing. This is the call in the Call of Raven's Hollow, is this little idea here. To me, this feels like a call. And then the last idea that we have in here is these crows, or ravens. I wanted to get the sound like there were thousands and thousands of crows just kind of like echoing in and just building up. So I found this sound and I just washed the crap out of it. It sounds like this. Pretty much from this track came most of the ideas I knew I wanted for the rest of the album. The Toymaker is like this corrupted, twisted, mangled guy. He covets power from the woods, this like spiritual power. And so as a result, he gets cursed for corrupting the power. He turns into kind of like a tree himself. So I was trying to think of how to characterize him in terms of the sound. The first thing that I decided to do was I wanted to get some kind of breathing sound. And I basically just inhaled like I was sick. So just... and just layered that through a bunch of weird effects. I wanted to make it sound like he was shuffling around, and I was trying to figure out how can I make this like really staggered thing where it has a sense of rhythm to it, but it's not too on the nose, it's not too like ducka 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 ducka. I grabbed this leather bag and I basically just manipulated it. So I just went kind of like until it made this kind of shuffly rhythm. Then I grabbed my typewriter. I wanted a kind of clicking sound. So I just took the roller, right? And I just, every couple measures, I would just go without the ding. So the lantern, I also used, like it's hanging from his tool belt. So I just kind of fumbled it around like it was loose and hanging off the tool belt. Like, it looks like I'm crazy, but that's kind of the idea, is you want to capture like the feeling of something being a little bit disheveled and old and a little bit labored. And when you take those sorts of things and you put them all together, that's where you get this really disheveled sounding kind of rhythm. And on its own, it doesn't really sound rhythmic. But when you combine it with the rest of the track, with the rhythm, it's pretty freaking creepy sounding. I wanted to have some kind of a love story in here, but I didn't know how. And this melody kind of came to me when I was in the shower, because that's where all good ideas come from. And it was a really pretty melody, but for some reason something came in the melody that felt off, like wrong. This is all fine. Kind of dark, but still pretty. And then here's the part that's off. And so that is foreshadowing something that happens later in the album. But ultimately, her melody is just a little motive. And throughout the album, this is scattered everywhere. Like you can hear it in the boss battle when we go. there's just every single melody I tried to infuse through the album, so it feels very continuous. It doesn't feel like it's just a bunch of tracks together. It's actually a full story with the characters recurring in different ways. So if you listen carefully, you can hear the girl's motive everywhere in this album. It's buried throughout. I knew that I had to earn this moment in order to have the track be as big as it was going to be. So everything about the album had to lead up to this. But the truth is, I procrastinated on writing this one track for about half of the time I was working on the album because I was just so scared to touch it. Finally, when I did, it actually wound up becoming probably my favorite boss track I've ever written. And a big part of that is because I just approached it totally differently than anything else I've done before with boss music. I also laid in every motive that's in the album in its entirety. There's the girl's motive, there's the boys theme. We get over to the finale, really, of the whole boss track, which has the call. So if you remember ba-dum from the beginning of the album, you'll hear it baked in, dum dum, in this final like kind of climactic thing. All laid inside of this track. It's really hard to do. This really simple line, this is also from the album. It's the puzzle theme. So on top of this whole thing, we have the puzzle theme, which is fusing on top. Very, very subtle. One of the highlights from this whole project was working with Budapest Orchestra. We had about 30 minutes to run the session. So when you do these orchestral sessions, it's really important that you're as prepared as possible, but you also need to be realistic about what they're capable of doing because it's not a lot of time to film and record the music. So I had this one line in here that I was really excited to try, but I just didn't know if we were gonna have time to be able to get the line. It sounds like this. So it's ridiculous. I mean, imagine being like a violin player or a string player and you've never seen the sheet music before, and that's what you get on day one, and you have a minute to learn it. They wound up getting it pretty much on the first take, and we did maybe a second or third to really lock it in. But when you hear the difference in the final mix, it's incredible what they were able to do. To composer, that's like heaven. This is basically what we live for as composers, is to be able to have the real musicians do this in real time. And they just absolutely crushed like everything that they were a part of. So this was probably the highlight of my entire career, working with these musicians on this track.